Australia Permanent Residency Points Guide 2025 Calculator Explained. Hi everyone, this is Perry, your Australian migration lawyer. So, you've crunched the numbers, you've met the requirements, and you finally have the points to make your Australian dream a reality. No frantic paperwork, just a clear system showing exactly where you stand, until suddenly you lose it all. While 65 points is the official minimum for some occupations, most successful applicants score far higher. And with visa rejection rates soaring high, with some categories hitting 50% refusals, competition for visas is now fiercer than ever. And now, 2025 is shaking things up even more. New rules, shifting visa eligibility criteria, stricter work experience assessments. If you don't understand all the latest changes, you could lose your chance before you even apply. So, do you have enough points? How do you actually secure an invitation? What's changing this year that could make or break your Australian visa application? Now, let's get into it. The age points breakdown. When applying for Australian permanent residency, your age is a decisive factor. If you are age 25 to 32 years old, you will get the highest scores for your age, as Australia prioritises younger workers in its skilled migration program. Like I said before, the highest points, 30, go to those who are aged 25 to 32. Now, if you're aged between 18 and 24, or 33 and 39, you can still earn a solid 25 points. However, once you reach 40 to 44, your points drop to 15, and at 45, they disappear entirely. Australia's preference is clear. They are favouring younger workers. So, should you rush to apply at 25 or worry 39? Not necessarily. Strategic timing is key. If you're nearing the end of a high-scoring age bracket, submitting your formal expression of interest sooner rather than later could help you a lot. Now, if you're in the younger age range and still building your work experience profile, strengthening other areas, and English proficiency can help compensate for any lost age points later on. Stick with us, because we'll talk more about that in a moment. The cutoff age for applying under most skilled migration pathways is 45. Meaning once you hit that age mark of 45, age would actually determine whether you can even apply for a visa at all. So, if you're serious about permanent residency, keeping an eye on your age bracket and planning ahead could be the difference between a successful visa application and missing out or being refused. Once you've got the age matter sorted out and you've determined how many points that you get for your age, the language proficiency is also very important. English language points. Here's where your permanent residency visa application can get a little tricky. The difference between a decent score and an excellent one could be the deciding factor in whether you get invited or one of the many who are left waiting. Many assume that IELTS is the only way in, but for a lot of occupations, the Australian Government's Department of Home Affairs accepts multiple tests, including the PTE, the TOEFL, OET, and the Cambridge C1 Advanced. Each has its own format, difficulty level, and scoring system, so choosing the right English test could make all the difference. Some test structures may align better with your individual strengths, so don't just default to the most common option. IELTS may not work for you and the PTE test might be more relevant. Pick the one that maximises your chances of success. Your test score directly impacts your visa points. A superior English score, which requires an IELTS of 8.0 or a PTE of 79 plus, earns you 20 points. The highest allocation possible. A proficient English score, that being an IELTS of 7.0 or a PTE of 65 plus, gets you 10 points. Anything below that, even if you meet the minimum visa requirement at IELTS 6.0 or PTE 50 plus, won't contribute any extra points. In other words, simply being competent won't cut it. If you're looking to boost your ranking, those extra 10 points from a superior English score could be the key to securing an invitation, especially if you're losing points elsewhere, whether due to age, whether due to your work experience, or because of your qualifications. Sometimes you need those extra 10 points. Many applicants underestimate how important this is. But when competition is fierce, as it always is, every single point matters. If your score is hovering around the minimum, retaking the test for a higher tier is highly recommended. Now, if you're on the edge of a higher points bracket, don't settle. Retesting for just a few more marks could dramatically improve your permanent residency chances. The system rewards those who maximize their points. So don't aim to pass, aim to exceed and excel. You can also update your expression of interest after it has been formally submitted. What this means is you can keep working on your English skills while waiting for your invitation to be issued. An English proficiency would only get you so far, because what makes a huge difference is, of course, your work experience. Work experience points. You should try to maximize your points in all criteria, including work experience. You can earn up to 20 points if you've been in a skilled role for 8 years. Overseas experience is still pretty valuable, but maxes out at 15 points. The takeaway here is that if you have the chance to gain local work experience here in Australia, grab it with both arms. It significantly boosts your score. But here's the catch. Not all work experience matters. Only skilled employment in your nominated occupation or a closely related field will get you the points that you need. So that part-time side hustle or unrelated job that you did for years, the Department of Home Affairs delegate won't care. If your experience is not relevant, it's time to rethink your migration strategy and speak to a migration lawyer. Maybe it's necessary for you to upskill or reframe your role to align with a skilled occupation. And of course, there's the issue of documentation, the issue that trips up more applicants than what you would think. You need official employment references. You need official payslips. You need your tax records. You need your detailed job description. If you can't prove it, you can't claim it. Missing paperwork won't get you any points. Remember to always keep on top of your paperwork. And with permanent residency applications getting more competitive each year, maximizing your relevant work experience points is the smartest move. Plan ahead, lock in your relevant work experience, and make sure that your paperwork is airtight. Because in immigration, in skilled migration, every point matters. Even if you haven't worked a lot, that's okay, because this is where your educational qualifications play a key role. We're going to talk about qualifications further now. Educational qualifications. Your education can give you serious points towards your application for Australian permanent residency. But like your relevant work experience, not all qualifications are considered equally. A degree from an Australian university will meet the study requirements and can earn you extra points, perhaps points that you need in this process. Overseas qualifications still have a role. They do still count, but they need to be formally recognised as equivalent to Australian qualification standards. A PhD, for instance, gets you 20 points. A bachelor's degree or master's degree nets you 15. And a diploma or a trade qualification makes you 10 points. Now, there's something you need to know about the Australian study requirements. If you are somebody who has completed at least 2 years of study in Australia, congratulations. You've just secured an extra 5 points. But for that to be the case, it has to be full-time, CRICOS registered course, and there are no shortcuts. So if you're looking towards Australian permanent residency, consider your education choices wisely. An Australian qualification or professional year could be the difference between you making the cut and someone falling short. And when you're dealing with Australian permanent residency, you can always use some extra points. Additional point categories. And for getting those extra points, there are a few additional categories that can push your permanent residency application over the line. If your partner, for instance, has the right skills and a solid English score, that's an easy 5 to 10 points. But if you don't have a partner, don't worry. Australia rewards your independence. You might still get some points for your independent status. Let's say, for example, that you're someone who studied in a regional area. That's another 5 points. Now he's certified in a community language, well, that can get you an additional 5 points. If you have completed a professional year in accounting, information technology, or engineering, you're looking at an extra 5 points. Plus, of course, a stronger profile in the future for employers when it comes to applying for that key role. Now, of course, every point matters, and these little extra avenues can make all the difference. In this next category, I'm diving into what could completely transform your permanent residency application. State nomination. It's a rocket launcher for your Australian permanent residency dream. State nomination gives you a solid 5 points for the 190 visa and a massive 15 points for the 491 visa. That's the difference between barely making it to actually getting the visa granted to you and getting permanent residency. Here's the deal. Every state has its own requirements. It has its own list of in-demand occupations and eligibility criteria. Just because you qualify for one state doesn't mean that you will qualify in another state or that a particular state will take you. Some prioritize applicants with job offers. Other states will favour graduates or those with relevant work experience in the region. And in 2025, expect states to tighten their criteria even further as competition for places continues to rise. States will look at your skills, they'll look at your relevant work experience, and states will even look at your commitment to staying in that region long term. Some states, such as South Australia, require you to have already lived and worked there for a period before applying. Now, the application process for state nomination can be straightforward, and I'm going to walk you through the application process. Firstly, what you need to do is submit an expression of interest known as an EOI using Skill Select. Then you wait. If a state picks you, they'll invite you to apply for nomination, and you'll have a tight deadline to submit all the necessary documents. If approved, you get an invitation to apply for permanent residency. Miss any step, and unfortunately, you're back to square one. State nomination isn't a backup plan. It can be a strategic move in your migration journey. If your points are borderline, this could be the lifeline that gets you across the finish line, but only, of course, if you play it right. That's exactly what we've helped many clients do here at Australian Migration Lawyers. We guide our clients through every step of the way as they apply for permanent residency, taking the stress away. Strategic point optimization. So let's say you need some extra points. Consider improving your English test score, gaining more relevant work experience, or securing a state nomination. Even a professional year program or a NATI certification can, of course, add those crucial final points relevant to your permanent residency application. Now, timing is everything. If you're nearing the cutoff for a higher scoring age bracket, we urge you to submit your application as soon as possible. When you're planning to gain more relevant work experience or to complete a degree, make sure that it aligns with your permanent residency timeline so you don't waste time on qualifications that aren't relevant and won't count towards your overall point score. So, let's talk money. Chasing points aimlessly can get very expensive. Think skills assessments, extra courses, course fees, and English tests. Prioritize the strategies that give you the biggest boost to your overall point score without draining your budget. Now, if your points look like they're still falling short, please don't panic. Alternative pathways are often still available. These include employer sponsorship, regional visas, or even further study can open new doors. The key is knowing where you stand and what moves will get you across the finish line. But I've seen people failing to get permanent residency even after all of this. So, if you're going through something similar, please book a consultation with Australian Migration Lawyers, because we will have someone here that can calculate your points correctly. To know more about Australian immigration laws, subscribe to this channel and comment with any of your questions below.